Let's start at the beginning. How did you become a Christian?
Okay. Yeah, so I grew up in the Lutheran Church, and I always considered myself a Christian. I knew the gospel, but I didn't follow Christ. There was no fruit of faith in my life, and I just did whatever I wanted, and also called myself a Christian. And then, like I said, I was playing in a lot of bands at that time. My band broke up. I took an acting class, fell in love with acting, was just doing theater all over San Diego. That's where I grew up, in San Diego, and moved up to Los Angeles, dropped everything, and I was going to pursue acting. Just I was going to, seize life and get what I want out of it. And that's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be an actor. I wanted to be in big movies and all that kind of stuff, the normal stuff. I was 20, 21, and moved up here and struggled and became friends with a person who went to Grace Community Church, another fellow actor. And he started inviting me to Bible studies. And I showed up to Grace Community Church. I had no idea anything about it. I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything about Reformed theology. I couldn't tell you anything. And I remember my first day there. We were in the big church. John MacArthur preached. I can't tell you what he preached on. I don't remember. I do remember going into another one where Lance Quinn, I don't know if you're familiar with that name. Yeah, he was preaching in Grace Life at the time, and he preached a sermon, and it somehow ended up with him talking about the return of Christ. And he said something that I thought was just so interesting. He said, and Jesus is going to actually physically return on this earth, and his feet are going to touch the ground, and he is going to return, and we're all going to see him, and it's going to be real. And I thought, I never thought about beyond that. I never thought about the return of Christ. I never thought about end times and judgment and him coming back and judging everybody. And I thought, this is fascinating. And I remember these two old ladies in the front were just so excited about it, because he's like, and isn't that going to be great that Jesus is going to return? And they were like, yeah, this is going to be awesome. And I was like, I don't really have that. That's interesting. And then I started going to a Bible study, and the first book I ever studied, it's the book of James, and it's dealing with, as you know, works being the result of your faith. And through the study of that book, I realized, I am a Christian now. Somehow I understand the gospel and actually what it means. I understand I'm a sinner. I'm repentful over my sin, which I really wasn't before. Like, my sin bothers me, and I was praying and confessing, and I desired to read the Bible, and I wanted to submit my life to Christ as my King and run everything through him, which was absent before. So now I was actually following Christ, and it just soaked in that year. And I couldn't tell you when it happened, honestly. I didn't have that kind of dramatic moment. I realized I'm a Christian, and I started to realize, but I clearly wasn't before. It's, growing up, I thought I was, and I wasn't. So then I just started getting plugged in at Grace from there on out. And, been there ever since. And then I lost the desire to pursue acting. And, I always was a storyteller at the end of the day, and I think acting was just a way to be intimately involved in the story. So the art and craft of filmmaking, of storytelling, visual storytelling, I really just dove into that and stretched myself in that, in my understanding of that, and tried to always hone my craft and work hard at that in writing and directing. And so over the last few decades, I've been doing that with my own stuff. I worked for a studio where we primarily focused on commercials. So I was dealing more in short form kind of stuff. I've written a screenplay, was been optioned, but didn't get made. I've written other screenplays that I would never show anybody, but they were just good exercises to do and get through. But just constantly always pursuing the craft of, the foundation of filmmaking, which is visual storytelling. So that's and so then that's it. I won't go beyond that. You just asked me, how did I get saved? That's the answer.
No, that's brilliant.